In 2019, Harvard Business Review published an analysis of thousands of 360-degree assessments. Leaders rated by the people above them, beside them, and under them. Women outscored men on 17 of the 19 capabilities that separate excellent leaders from average ones. Taking initiative, driving for results, resilience, integrity. And inside that same data set was one more finding. When those women were asked to rate themselves, they scored themselves lower than everyone else scored them. So the room says she's leading. The people who report to her say she's leading. Even the data says she's leading. And something inside her has still not agreed with them. And that gap has a name. That is what we are addressing in this episode today. Welcome back to the Shift Conversation. My name is Oluseye Ashiru, and this is the podcast where we name the fracture, close the ceiling, and build the legacy. We are still in phase 1 of the Shift 9. 9 episodes, 9 fracture points, and 1 per episode. Not 9 problems to fix, but 9 fractures to name. In the last episode, we sat with the generational fracture. What she inherited without choosing it, what she's building for the people who come behind her, the architecture question. And this week we move into the 8th of the 9, the leadership fracture. If you have been listening from episode 1, you already know how this works. I'm not here to motivate you. I'm here to hand you language. I'm here to bring you the gut answer. And I hope that you also give yourself that opportunity. The gut answer and not the managed one. So here is a leadership fracture in one line. This woman is carrying the full weight of the seat without ever having sat down in that seat. She has a responsibility. She has the title, or she's doing the work of the title. She has the outcomes hanging on her name, and she has never taken that authority. I want you to think about that again, slowly. Responsibility that she accepted, authority that she never claimed. She leads by competence, but competence is not authority. Competence is what makes her useful in the room. Authority is what makes her the one who decides what is in that room. So she's doing the work of the seat from a standing position every single day for years. And that is why she feels tired. But it's not the tiredness of the work. It's the tiredness of holding up something that was originally designed to hold her. So let me be precise about what this leadership fracture is not. This is not a woman who is lacking in skill. Because almost every woman carrying the leadership fracture is overqualified for the seat she's even occupying. That is part of the signature. She has more credentials than the role requires. She over-prepares for meetings she would have walked into cold. This is not a woman who lacks courage either. She's done hard things in public, repeatedly. The leadership fracture sits somewhere even much more specific. It sits in the distance between what she's permitted to do and what she's permitted herself to do. The organization gave her a seat. She's been waiting for something else to give her the right to sit in that seat. She's been waiting a very long time. Let's look at the misdiagnosis of this leadership fracture. What does it get called instead? This fracture is one of the most misdiagnosed in the entire framework. It gets named 4 wrong ways. Wrong name 1, imposter syndrome. The most popular label of the last decade. It puts the whole problem inside her head and calls it a feeling. So the prescription becomes affirmation. Tell her she belongs. Tell her she earned it. She's been told that repeatedly by the people whose opinions she respects. But it didn't close any gap. It didn't close anything. Wrong name 2, a collaborative leadership style. She calls it collaboration when she puts every decision to the room. Sometimes it is collaboration. Sometimes it is a way to make sure nobody can question her single decision and put her name on it by herself. Collaboration invites input, then decides. The fracture invites input and waits to be told. Wrong name 3, humility. This is the one that gets baptized. It gets spiritual language wrapped around it. She calls it deference. She calls it meekness. She calls it staying small enough to be useful. Humility is an accurate view of yourself. Refusing your own authority is not accuracy. It's a cover system, but with better branding on it. Wrong name 4. She needs executive presence training. So the organization sent her on a workshop on posture, vocal tone, and how to command a room. She comes back with better delivery and the same fracture. You cannot train presence into a woman who has not decided that she's allowed to occupy the seat. The training gives her a better performance of authority. The fracture stays exactly where it was. Let's look at the 4 signature markers of the leadership fracture. These are self-identification tools. 4 ways this fracture shows itself in an ordinary working week. Don't ask which one could apply to you. Ask which one was your own week. That's a good way to identify it. Marker 1, she leads by proving. Doesn't that sound familiar? Every decision arrives with evidence attached. She does not just say, this is a direction. She says, here's the data. Here are the 3 options. Here is the benchmark. Here's what the consultant said. And based on all of that, I would suggest that. She builds the case before she even states the position, because somewhere in her mind, she believes that the position alone will not hold. So watch how she prepares herself. 12 slides for a decision that can take only 1. 1 sentence only is what she needed. Rehearsing a conversation she's had 100 versions of. Reading the room 3 times before she even opens her mouth to speak once. That's not just preparing. She's really earning permission to speak. And here is the cost of all of that. A woman who leads by proving has to re-earn her authority in every single room. Nothing accumulates. Every meeting starts from 0. And that is why she's always tired. She's tired in a way that sleep cannot even touch. Marker 2 of the leadership fracture. She softens the instruction. Listen to how she gives direction. Would you be able to maybe take a look at this when you get a chance? Sorry, I know you're busy. No rush at all. Just wondering if we should possibly consider. Every instruction is wrapped in 3 layers of padding so that no one in the room experiences her as the person who decided it. She calls it being kind, being reasonable, being easy to work with. But this is what it actually does to her. Her team never receives a clear instruction. So they guess. They guess wrong. She corrects it herself afterwards rather than naming the miss. The softening produced more work for her, not less. And this one is even worth naming honestly. Many women learned this in rooms that punished them for being direct. The softening was intelligent once upon a time. That softening kept her employed. It kept her liked. The question today is whether it is still buying anything or whether she's now here paying a premium on a policy that expired many years ago. Marker 3, she takes the work back. Someone on her team delivers at 70%. She has two options: hold the standard or absorb the gap. Guess what she does? Every single time, she absorbs the gap. She rewrites the document at 11 at night. She fixes the deck before the client sees it. She reworks the numbers and says nothing. She calls it faster to just do it myself. But this is what she's actually avoiding. That conversation where she's able to make the correction. The moment where she has to sit across from an adult and say, this is not the standard, and I'm the one who sets the standard here. That kind of conversation requires authority. And so instead of doing that, she pays the cash instead. Cash in hours, in weekends, in the work she was hired to do and never gets to be able to do. This woman is the most capable woman in the building, doing the third most important job in it. Her team is not underperforming because they cannot do better. Her team is underperforming because nobody has ever required better of them. And she has quietly made it safe for that pattern to continue. Signature marker 4. She's waiting to be handed the room. She's already doing the work of the next level. Everybody knows it. Her name is the one people say when something needs to land. And she's waiting for that title to be confirmed before she operates like the one who holds the title. Waiting for the invitation before she speaks into the strategy she's already solved in her head. Waiting for somebody senior to say out loud that she's ready now. She has a mental list of what has to happen first. One more certification, one more year, one more successful quarter, one more sign. That list is not real. That list is the fracture holding the door, preventing her from stepping inside her authority. And here is a pattern that I have watched for 12 years across 5 continents in thousands of women. The seat is rarely handed to the most capable woman in the room. I can tell you that for free. It is handed to the woman the room already experiences as the one who decides. So she's been building the first case and waiting for the second result. But she has to decide to step into her power. Let's talk about the fracture overhead. Every unaddressed fracture runs a cover system, and every cover system has an overhead. Here is what the leadership fracture costs to operate. The proving costs, preparation hours nobody asked for. The softening costs clarity, so the work comes back. The absorbing costs her the strategic work she was actually hired to do. The waiting cost her years. And underneath all of that is the 5th line item that never appears on any calendar. The running internal calculation of how our authority is landing. Was that too much? Does that sound harsh? Should I follow up and soften it? And when you add that up, honestly, and most women carrying this fracture are spending somewhere between 8 and 15 hours a week operating that cover system. That is not a leadership problem. It's a structural one. She's not out of capacity, but she's running a second unpaid job on top of her first. And this fracture is putting a ceiling on her. It's blocking a specific next level in this woman's life. And here is the one this fracture blocks. She will rise to the top of her competence and she will stop there. Competence gets her to senior level. Competence gets her respected, trusted, relied upon, consulted. Competence does not get her the seat where the decision rests with one person, and that person is her. That seat requires something competence cannot manufacture. The room has to experience her as the one who carries authority, not the one who executes it brilliantly on someone else's behalf. So here is the ceiling in plain terms. She becomes the most indispensable person, one level below where she belongs. And indispensable is a beautiful word for a locked door. The organization cannot afford to move her because nothing works without her where she is, built around her, not beyond her. Can you imagine what kind of trap she put herself in? Let's look at the 5 examination questions of the leadership fracture. We ask the same 5 questions every episode. applied to this episode is the leadership fracture. I want you to get something to write with if you can. The answers you say out loud in your head don't count. We want you to write them down. Question 1. What does this fracture show me? Not in general, one moment, specific moment, a recent moment. Maybe it was the email you rewrote 4 times to make an instruction sound like a request. Maybe it was the meeting where you had the answer in the first 3 minutes and offered it in the last 3. Maybe it was a document you fixed yourself at midnight instead of sending it back. Maybe it was the moment someone said, "So what do you want to do?" And you heard yourself say, "Well, what does everybody else think?" One moment, this week or last week, that is your answer to question 1. And then let's go to examination question 2. What has it cost me? I want you to be exact in this one. This is where most women go vague and they get nothing back. Because, like we say in this community, vague costs produce vague healing. Precise costs produce precise closure. So I don't want you to write, "It has cost me my confidence." Write the role you didn't apply for. Write the number of hours last month. Write the name of the person you never corrected and what that has now cost your whole team. Write the initiative you handed to someone else because leading it out loud felt like too much exposure. Write the years, actual years, count them. Precise costs, write them down. Question 3. What has this fracture been protecting me from? And I want you to take a moment to let this one land for you. Because this fracture is protecting you from something. There's no cover system that runs this long in a person's life without paying for itself somewhere. So let's sit with this one for a while. If you take the authority, you can be blamed. As long as the room decided together, no single person carries the failure. If you take the authority, you can be disliked. And for many women, that risk is not theoretical. This woman has watched what happens to a woman who is direct. If you take the authority, you are visible at a level where the criticism gets personal. And this is the part that a lot of people don't even recognize or give themselves permission to say it out loud. If she takes the seat and still cannot fix what is broken, then the story she has been telling herself falls apart. The story that says, "If they will just let me lead this properly, I will get it right." While she waits, that story is giving her comfort because it stays intact. The waiting is protecting that story in her mind. So I want you to write the honest one, not the acceptable one. What is this fracture protecting you from? Question 4. What did this fracture serve in you? This question keeps you out of self-attack. So I don't want you to skip it. This fracture served you. I just want you to name how it did serve you, right? The proving made you excellent, genuinely excellent. Your preparation is a real asset. And it will still be an asset after this closes. The softening kept you safe in rooms that had no room for a woman with direct voice. That was you operating survival intelligence. The absorbing built you a reputation. People trust you because you've never let anything drop. Honor it. Why? Because it got you here. And then I want you to say the next sentence out loud. This got me here. It cannot take me there. Question 5. What is this fracture limiting in me? I want you to look forward now. Name the seat you are already qualified for, but you've not moved toward. Name the decision sitting on your desk that only you can make and has been sitting there for weeks. Name the person you need to develop and cannot, because developing somebody requires you to hold them to a standard out loud. Name the room, the one you are yet to enter, the one where the question is not, can she do the work, but will she carry the weight of the decision? That room is what this fracture is currently costing you. And I want you to think deeply about that. What does closing the leadership fracture look like? Let me be clear about what closure is and what it is not. Closing the leadership fracture does not turn her into a different kind of woman. She does not become louder, harder, or colder. The warmth is not the problem. The warmth is one of her assets. But here is what changes actually. She states the position first and offers the reasoning second. She gives one clean instruction with a date attached and she stops padding it. She holds the standard in the room instead of fixing it alone afterwards. She stops waiting to be handed what she has already been carrying. And here is the part that matters most for the woman who builds from faith. Authority is conferred. It is not competed for, and it is not earned through one more year of proving. She was already commissioned. This seat has been assigned to her before the room approved of her sitting in it. The room is not the source. The room is the assignment. Stature and not hustle. That is a whole difference from a woman that is leading by faith. So here is what I want to leave you. The competence is real. Nobody is questioning the competence, least of all me. The gap is not skill. The gap is occupancy. You've been holding up a seat that was built to hold you. And I want you to realize something. You don't need one more credential. You don't need one more year. You don't need one more person to confirm what your results have been saying for a decade. You need to sit down in what you have already been given. Sit in that authority. Because you were designed to build, not to prove, not to wait, to build. Naming the fracture is the first act. Take this audit at shiftintolegacy.com/audit. Second, apply for the Shift Labs residency. The audit names it. The residency closes it. Applications are now open for the next cohort. Go to shiftintolegacy.com/residency. Next week, we close phase 1 of the Shift 9 with episode 9, the legacy fracture. The one that arrives after she's built everything she says she will build. And then she sits with the question of, what will survive me? The woman who has achieved but cannot rest inside. That is next week. Until then, keep naming it precisely. She named it, now she can close it. My name is Oluseye Ashiru, and this has been the Shift Conversation.